So when you moved to Wichita and you were working with the credit collection stuff, you would repo cars. And I remember one time you always said you took me with you sometimes. Stealing cars is how you said it. And there's a couple of funny stories that I've heard you tell about repossessing people's cars.
Well, just as a couple of them, I used to take your mother and you with me if it was in the evening, and we went to an apartment complex one night, and because I could never find the person that needed I had to collect the payments from, and I went up the stair. Left you guys in the car, and then I went in, and then as we were going up, she lived on the third floor. As we were going up the steps, she kept turning the lights out, and your mom got real upset and really scared. And it turned out to be that she was nothing. She made the payments, and I collected payments and came back out to the car, and then we got back in, and she said, "We're not going to do this again." So that was, but we did on a couple of occasions. I did when we just going to
thing. I probably wasn't with you, but wasn't there some story about didn't you have like a dog or some guy pull a gun on you or something like that?
Well,
are those two different stories?
I was in a housing complex that was built like in U's back like this, and then they'd come out and they didn't have any housing lights at all, and no lights at all. And so we had a book when I was with GMC. It was called a 510 book, and it had all of the accounts that I was supposed to collect in there. And I walked back in there, and it was so dark way back in the corner of that U back there on that apartment. And I thought I saw something streak across, and I jumped real quick, and I looked, and there was nothing there. And so I went up and I rang the doorbell, and they peeked out the window, and then they saw who I was or something like that. And they didn't turn on the light or nothing. They just and about that time, a little old dog ran up behind me and started, and my book went up in the air, and I took off running, and I didn't even stop and pick the car up. I just went on running and down and called this buddy of mine, that same one, Dick Capps, and I said, "Hey, I just run up and left my car down there," and so that he come by and picked me up and took me back down, and we got in the car, and I never did find my 510 book. So I had to get a new book, made up. And so I don't know what they did with it, but and then the only other one was that when I was being taught by a guy that was one of the senior collectors, he took me to this gentleman's house, and he said, "Now this guy just got out of prison from killing a guy," and he said, "But it was kind of self-defense, but yet they got him for manslaughter or something like that." I didn't know what it was, and so I walked up to the front door, and he told me, he said, "Now you go on up there and ring the doorbell," and said, "You'll be all right." And so I walked up to the front door, and they didn't have the door was not closed, but the screen doors in the old days of screen doors where you had a little hook, and the TV was on in the room, and so I knew he was there. So I thought, well, so I just started banging right there where the hook's at like that, and if you keep banging it like that, it makes the hook jump out a lot of times. And you don't go in. I wasn't going to go in or anything. But then all of a sudden, the knife just came through the screen and just cut the screen right down the middle. And I took off then like really fast. And I was scared to death. And I didn't even stop for the guy that was training me. And he was sat down in the car laughing. And I was running down the street past him.
Oh my gosh.
And then he come down the street and picked me up. And then he said, let's go back. I'm going to show you what to do.
Oh man.
And he went after, and he just went to the door and he said, Augie, he said, come here. This is, and he told him what his name was and everything else. And he had handled Augie many times. And then he introduced me, said, this is who you just scared off with that knife. And he said, oh, I'm sorry. And so we got it all taken care of. So,